Okay. I'm finally doing this. This is the Booktube Newbie Tag. I had meant to do this months and months ago when I first actually started posting shorts on here, but life happened. I never got around to it. So we're here now after two of my friends, Jay and JR, did it first. Obviously, the Booktube Newbie Tag has been floating around for ages. But yeah, here's my my version of it. So first I'll introduce myself. My name is Alex, and I'm a part-time book reviewer on Instagram. I do a lot of reviews and kind of niche recommendations, and I talk a lot about indie books. I'm also the co-host of the podcast here on YouTube called And They Weren't Roommates, where we talk about queer media and BL and media analysis, specifically on queer media. Yeah, so we can get into the questions. I have my little notebook here. So why did you start this channel? I think the biggest reason I started this channel is because while I've been on Instagram for I want to say 8 years now, I don't always find it the best place for my weird niche ideas when it comes to my recommendations or things that I want to talk about. The short form style isn't necessarily something that works well for me, and I think having a channel where I can talk about books and talk about niche recommendations, but also talk about things like my interest in crafting or DIY stuff or K-pop and movies and TV shows and whatever, all that other stuff, I think is something that I really wanted, because I don't always have a great outlet for that, and I'd like somewhere that I can kind of talk about that more. What is a fun or some fun and unique things that you can bring to YouTube? I mean, I think the major one is that the majority of my reading is indie books, so that's self-published or small press. And while I do see some people talking about them, I don't see a lot of conversation about indie books. So being able to talk about that somewhere is something that I really wanted. Yeah, I think that's one of the big ones. I mean, the other one is that I mostly read queer media. Hi, Stella. Hi, Stella. Hi. Yeah, so I mostly read queer books and indie books, which would be a lot of what I talk about. I also read manga and danmai, so I'll probably end up talking about those. Yeah, I guess also I'm Arrow and Ace, so that influences my reading and my opinions on things. Please ignore the doggy noises. Okay, what am I most excited about? What am I most excited for about this new channel? And that is having a place to put all my thoughts and put my kind of longer form ideas, but also to have somewhere that I can talk about, my crafting and DIY interests and K-pop and movies and books all in one place. Because my Instagram is pretty much just books for the most part. I mean, I do my niche recommendations there, where I give recommendations to a character from a show, or books kind of inspired by music or whatever, but those don't tend to do as well. I have 4 people that like that kind of stuff, and everyone else is more interested in just my reviews and whatever. So I think having somewhere that I can have more variety in what I want to post and what I want to share, I think would be really nice. Why do you love reading? I mean, I guess the biggest reason is just I love stories, and I've always loved stories. I love, falling in love with a character and seeing where they go and what happens to them, and just being able to feel something for somebody else outside of yourself and kind of be transported to another world. All right, next question is, what book or series got you into reading? Well, I wasn't really a reader until about the 4th grade. I struggled to read. I was behind in reading, and I was very lucky that I had a teacher that kind of went the extra mile to get me up to speed and found things that I liked and things that I wanted to read. And at that time, I was really into animals and being a vet. So he got me books about animals and about vets and all that kind of stuff. I also remember reading a lot of Geronimo Stilton books. They were just really fun, and like I loved, the mouse detective kind of vibe. And then one series that I think has always stuck in my head as being like a really important series, or like really impactful series, just because I remember it so fondly and so like vividly, is the Fear Street Saga by R.L. Stine. And it's literally just that trilogy. Like I didn't read anything else in the Fear Street franchise, just that trilogy. But something about it just stuck with me, and I don't know, it's like one of those things that I could never forget or let go of. Okay, next question is a question you would ask your favorite booktubers. So 2 of my favorite booktubers are Books and Lala and Gavin Reads It All. And one thing that I love about them is, while they're like so open and honest with their personalities, I think the big thing that always gets me is they have these really amazing concepts and like how they choose their TBRs and who picks the books that they read and how they pick the books that they read and what books they read. And I guess for me, because I'm such a mood reader, I just read whatever is interesting and whatever like I'm getting excited about. Like I really just follow the dopamine when I read. So with that, I think my big question would just be like, how do you follow a TBR? Like I've never been able to really follow a TBR unless I give myself like a 30-book TBR and I just pick from there. Like I really am such a mood reader that I find it almost impossible to stick to a short list of books that I need to complete in a certain amount of time. Like I just lose all attention and focus. So I think that's the biggest thing I would ask, is because they are so good about following a TBR and, reading everything they set out to read. Yeah, that's my question for any booktuber out there that follows a TBR. How do you do it? Because I don't know how. Okay, next question is challenges that'll be the hardest. Honestly, it's just going to be consistency. Like I'm very much not a consistency person. It goes along with the mood reading. I am very much somebody who just like follows the dopamine or follows whatever it is that I'm excited about or feeling. So I have a hard time doing things consistently and sticking to a plan. So I don't really know how much I'm going to post on here, how many videos, what the videos are going to be. I'm just kind of, playing with how it feels and what I want to do. But yeah, I think consistency will be the hardest part, but it'll be a little bit easier just because I'm not planning on sticking solely to books, because honestly that wouldn't work very well, because I am on and off perpetually in a slump when it comes to reading. So like I'm not always reading very much. I'm reading like 1 or 2 books a month or something, depending on how we're feeling. So yeah, consistency will be a tough one, but we'll just see how it goes, I guess. Where do you read? Honestly, mostly in bed and on my couch. Sometimes I read at work if I get to, if I have the time and nothing else I need to do. I don't really read anywhere else. Like I don't have like a long commute or anything. So like I used to read on my commute going to school, but I don't do that anymore. So I'm not reading on a commute or anything, and I'm really bad with audiobooks, so I'm not even reading like on a walk or doing dishes or whatever. So yeah, mostly just like in bed on the couch when I can sit down and I have some time to do it. I'm reading. Okay, what kind of books do you read? So as I kind of mentioned already, I read a lot of indie books, mostly queer books. I also read a lot of manga, and I've recently gotten into Danmai, so I've been reading a lot of that. In terms of genres, I really like fantasy. I love like horror, fantasy kind of mixed together, like a fantasy with horror elements. Um, my friends would say that like my genre of a book is like queer gross shit, basically. Because I like anything that's a little bit gross. I mean, not anything, but a lot of my favorite books are a little bit gross. Um, Mostly they're like fantasy with a dose of horror in there, like gore, folk horror, body horror, that kind of stuff, supernatural stuff. I also read sci-fi on occasion. That's a little more hit and miss for me. I do read romance, but I very much like almost exclusively read queer indie romance. Like I'm not reading a lot of the traditionally published stuff. And then obviously I read like more, straight horror. Straight as in like hard horror versus like fantasy horror, not necessarily like straight, but anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, getting lost. Yeah, I think that's the majority of the books I read. With like manga, I read, more contemporary stuff. I do read some romance. I like queer manga. I like fantasy. Manga, I'm like still figuring out what I'm interested in, and like I'm kind of reading a wider variety of stuff just to like try everything and see what I like and see what I want to continue. And then Danmai is kind of the same. I'm reading a lot of different things just to see what like styles and genres and subgenres and tropes and whatever that I'm interested in. Yeah. Okay, last question is, what does your book collection look like? So behind me is kind of like 90% of my physical TBR, not my ebooks. We're not going to talk about that. There's way too many of those and I need to work through them. But anyways, so yeah, behind me on these bookshelves here are the majority of my TBR. I also have some books in our like office room, and then in our entryway we have a little bookshelf with some other books down there. The entryway I think is mostly like my graphic novels and some more like nostalgic books, like books that I'm not actively reading but that I'm keeping for the sentimental value or the nostalgia of them. The books in the office space are mostly my read books. There's a couple TBR books in there. I don't have a huge collection of books, to be honest. But that's mostly just because I'm not like I get a lot of books from the library, and I don't tend to buy books unless I like really, really, really love them or want to reread them, or I don't have access to them anywhere else. Yeah, I think that's everything. Maybe I'll insert some pictures of my other bookshelves. Maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see how I'm feeling. Yeah, I think that's everything. I don't really know what else to say here. So, if you want to follow me along on my kind of chaotic journey with books and crafting and DIY and movies and music, subscribe. Also, if you're interested in like queer media analysis and BL shows and, you know, Asian media, definitely check out my podcast with JR, and They Weren't Roommates. I'll have it linked below. We've kind of just started posting videos over there, but we're slowly getting there. We've got a couple up already. Yeah, and we just talk about queer media, and we'll probably have some deep dives on there about, you know, our favorite shows or tropes or topics, or, well, that's not probably, we will. We will. That's the whole point of the podcast. The whole point of the podcast is to follow the dopamine and our obsession with shows and queer media in general. Yeah, before I ramble forever, I will end the video here, and thanks for watching, and hopefully I have another video eventually, soon, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I have ideas, but nothing actually done yet. This is the first one. Yeah, I promise I will be less nervous as this goes on. I'm not used to talking to a camera by myself. I'm used to doing it with JR, so those, I am much less nervous in those videos over there. And yeah, thanks for watching.